Dr. Anthony Harper here, blessed to be able to have a conversation with several people that have been impacted by Governor Newsom's mask mandate. So this is Cecilia, her mother Tavia, and Yvette in the screen. And then there's the attorney Tracy, their attorney that is going to be joining us as well. So Cecilia, I know there's a lot that's been going on in California regarding the mask mandate. What was your experience in school? How were you impacted by this mask mandate?
Well, I've decided not to wear the mask throughout the mandate, and I've been kicked out of school, or they're trying to. I've been discriminated against. I've been harassed by the uppers, my principal and vice principal, and out in the cold. Yeah, I've been put out in the cold. I've been segregated. I've really been harassed throughout all of this because I choose not to wear a mask.
Mm-hmm. How has that affected you emotionally and other students that have experienced harassment?
I have been very affected emotionally through the mask mandate, as I have chosen not to wear the mask. It's really difficult for me to keep pushing through, and some of my friends and others, like classmates, that want to choose not to wear the mask because they feel as though they don't want to and it's not good for their health, have been like threatened with certain things and have become afraid to stand up for what they feel is right.
Okay, what school is this in California?
Placer High School.
You said Placer High School,
Mm-hmm.
and that's in Auburn, California? Okay. And so as a result of talking about this, I wonder, and a lot of our viewers want to know what is happening with these school officials. How are they responding to you and others' concerns about this?
I feel that they're responding with silencing me. They do not want to hear my voice. They do not care that the mask is having a complete negative effect on me. It's really rough with how they choose to discriminate me with this, and it's very difficult.
They've chosen an example of her.
Yes.
Okay.
Dr. Harper, the school district is violating the law with their response to this.
Okay.
Under Education Code 48900, the only way a child can be removed from campus, suspended or expelled, is if there's evidence of a clear and present danger. And they have chosen just this last Friday to suspend Cecilia illegally. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but the willful disobedience statutes in California were eviscerated. The leftists decided that they were being disproportionately applied to people of color in Oakland, Salinas, and households where there was only one parent happening. And so the discipline problems are a little bit greater because there's only one parent, typically a mom. And so they didn't like that. So they eviscerated the willful disobedience. So if a teacher tells you to do something and you say no, they cannot legally suspend you. It's Education Code 48900K. They have to do some sort of remedial step, like make you, do lunch duty or detention or something like that. Instead, this school district has decided to suspend her illegally. They can't do it. And they've also come up with another notice of exclusion process that nobody seems to understand or have ever seen it before under Education Code 48213. And all of this stems from a healthy child going to school without a mask, completely breaking the law.
It's very disturbing in all this. And I want to ask Cecilia about other students with a mask. Are you there, Cecilia?
Yeah.
Cecilia, have you observed other students not wearing a mask?
I have other students that choose to not wear a mask. They don't like stand strong as much as I do with my stubbornness against the masks. So they're easily threatened with getting sent home or threatened to walk on graduation. And they stand up one time and they get shot down immediately. And they want to stand up and fight, but they feel as though they can't because the school district is not allowing them to and really making it so they don't have a choice.
Okay, Cecilia, go ahead. No, Cecilia, I was curious about if other students when they do have masks, do they have their mask all covering up their nose and the mouth usually?
No, not usually. A lot of them, like, they just wear them like on an ear or under the chin.
Sometimes
they hardly even wear it over their like mouth, and it never covers their nose. You'll rarely see a person that has a mask completely covering their face.
Okay, so they're mistreating you. They're singling you out a lot, but yet they don't cover their mouth and nose. Okay. Well, Tavia, I know you're the mother of Cecilia. What has been your observations about the way that the school officials have been interacting with Cecilia and the way she's been treated?
I really feel like they've just tried to strong arm bully her and shut down any sort of opposition to masking because they don't want to get into trouble or lose maybe some funding. They are taking a very hard course. They've been telling us all along that they want to work with us, that they believe in choice. But when it comes down to it, they've denied her an education for months, and the principal has taken the route of harassing the other teachers to make sure that they kick her out if she's not masked, and threatened their jobs, and shows up into her classrooms to make sure. So really, he's the one causing these disruptions in class, the principal. And then in regards to the suspension, she just said, no, I don't really want to leave class. No, thanks. I have a test to take. She'll sit in the back of the classroom, just go about your business. Let me stay here. And the principal they took the entire classroom from one room to another room in an attempt to separate her from her class. Her out of that room. They're the ones that are causing this disruption. It's not her.
They're the ones that are threatening me. When
we're going to suspend you. And it's been very, very disheartening that I don't have these issues, because that one teacher who an issue for, they'll wear it here or wherever just to get through the class and don't get kicked out. But through the majority of the day, they're not masking, and it's not a big deal for them.
Okay. Well, Tavia, but Cecilia, do you see other kids in school emotionally impacted by this, as far as crying or other type of issues?
I do have a few friends that have a lot of mental breakdowns when someone slightly even raises their voice at them, and wearing the mask can make them feel silenced. And then when they are threatened to be kicked out of class and sent to the office because they choose to not wear one, you can really see, like, it kills their light, and it makes it really, really difficult for them. And it hurts me to see them like.
Yeah, very upsetting. I know, and very disturbing. So a lot of people are going to be praying for all of you there at the school and other students and parents around the nation that are impacted by this. And I was going to ask Yvette, as far as Yvette, you have a child in school as well at this school?
Yes, I do. I have a junior. Yeah. Would you like me to elaborate?
No, yeah,
I have a son. He's a junior.
You have a son there at the school, and yeah. Did you how you observed the way he's been treated, and other students have been treated regarding this mask mandate?
Well, you know, the kids are being threatened. Threatened if he doesn't wear the mask, he's going to get kicked out of class. He's not going to be able to participate in social activities. He's not going to be able to participate in sports. And, you know, aside from all with wearing the mask, there's some real mental health issues and learning issues that are going on with mask wearing, because my son complains all the time. He can't hear the teacher talk. He can't see, impacting learning because they can't hear the teacher. They can't see the teacher's lips, and it's affecting their ability to learn. And there's, you know, all the physical ailments from wearing the mask, the bacteria buildup. My son started to get a low-grade persistent cough from wearing the surgical mask. And then I forbid him to wear them. And as soon as he stopped wearing them, it went away. So I highly suspect that the particles from the mask were getting into his throat and causing this persistent cough. You know, it lets the kids, it's a scare tactic. It's constantly, the kids are living in a state of fear. You get on the students on campus, the ones that are wearing the mask up over their nose outside, they are in a panic, like a state of fear that they're going to die or get really sick if they contract COVID. And there's just so much misinformation out there about whether the masks work, whether they don't work, and that's a whole nother issue. But these kids are definitely being threatened. There's no question about it. And it's tied to funding coming from the federal and the state government, and mandates have to be in place. And it's having a real negative impact on kids in school.
Yes, it's very troubling. I do hear this kind of reports across the nation as well. I'm thinking also about those that have that are impacted or affected by claustrophobia. This mask triggering a lot of feelings. So I wondered if Cecilia, if you noticed other kids in school that with claustrophobia or, you know, with asthma that have been greatly impacted with this mask is causing a crisis for them.
I don't personally know anyone with claustrophobia. However, I do have a very close friend who has always had breathing and respiratory issues.
Uh-huh.
The mask has given her a very severe sinus infection, and she's not as strong willfully to fight, so she chose to do the at-home learning, whatever it's called, and doesn't want to go back to school with the wearing of the mask because it has seriously affected her health and made it hard for her to breathe. And breathing is a very crucial part of being able to live.
Oh, of course. I was going to ask you, Yvette, again, how you've seen the school officials treat other kids, how the school officials treated other kids that you witnessed and treated you and other parents with these concerns.
We've been on and begging the school board and administration, district administration, school administration to remove it or at least make it a choice. It should be a choice, you know, and we've talked about all the different negative aspects of mask wearing, everything from physical hypoxia, you know, not being able to breathe. A lot of these kids just can't breathe. And that's just a fact. Acne, oral issues from wearing masks all day long, dental issues, you know, they honestly, it's like talking to a wall. We have to follow CDPH. That's the standard response. We have to follow CDPH. We're not at liberty to not follow CDPH, which is California Department of Public Health. They will not absolutely will not budge for months. You know, these masks are experimental. They're labeled experimental by the FDA. Our students have a legal right to accept or decline medical device. We presented them with all of the legal documentation. I presented our school board, our school, our district administration with a cease and desist letter from my attorney, Tracy Henderson, and they just ignore it. My son is still being required to wear a mask to stay in school. Now, he tells me that he's mostly wearing it on his chin, but what is the point? So they can say, really depends on the teacher, but the administration is really, really strict. Our principal will go to a basketball game. They'll go around taking pictures of the students in the stands if they're not wearing masks. And he's just probably going to use that for discipline measures. So these kids are being threatened that they can't walk in graduation if they don't mask. I mean, you got to realize it's been 2 years. We've had 2 years of this with no end in sight. There's no end in sight. According to the ESSER funds, it's another 2 more years of mandates. Parents weren't aware of this.
Right. We know scientifically there's always different variants of the flu. There's always going to be variants of this COVID virus as well. It goes on and on forever. And students, I know, Cecilia, you and others, you can't afford to put your life on hold forever on this matter. When you were standing outside, what was that like for you?
Oh, that was awful. That day when about 5 of us were sent outside underneath the white easy up, and it was 42 degrees outside, and it was raining and windy, and none of us were dressed very appropriately at all.
Remember, we live in California, and it doesn't get much below maybe 30 degrees at the very lowest here.
And it was cold and wet, and it was like they didn't treat us like we were humans anymore. It was very difficult. I called the authority. I called the cops to come and do something about it, because we were complaining to the vice principal who was out there with us. We were like, it's cold. We need to be warm. It's cold. And she had no regard for our well-being. And then when the cops did come, it was rough, because it was like they weren't standing up for us as people, as children. And we did eventually end up getting moved inside for about the last 10 minutes of that class, only to be kicked out again of my next class for not wearing the mask and sent back outside. You know, it's like we're treated as livestock, like we're not people anymore, all because we choose to not wear a mask that doesn't even help.
Yes, I know it's very troubling, and God bless you and other students there going through these emotional issues, and parents as it impacted the whole family on these matters. And you mentioned Tracy Henderson is your attorney in this matter.
Yes, hi, Dr. Harper. How are you?
Hello, Tracy. Again, did you want to make some other comments?
Well, I think this is tragic. I feel very comfortable describing this as child abuse. I mean, some would say that's inflammatory, but what I'm seeing happening in our schools is discrimination. It's harassment of children, and it's child abuse. Putting a child out in the cold, freezing cold, that's child abuse. Under what circumstance would you ever do that? And to what end? The parents tried to bring these children out in the cold, hot chocolate, and the school refused to allow that. Why are they acting like this? I cannot understand how people who are put in the position as educators to act in the best interest of children are abusing, harassing, and discriminating against children. And it gets even worse when you look at it from a legal perspective, because they can't do this. The Administrative Procedures Act is a administrative law process, if you will. And this California Department of Health, the federal government had to go through this Administrative Procedures Act process in order to make this California Department of Health guidance binding so that they could punitively or even so it could have some sort of legal import so they could make it a rule that everybody has to follow. It did not go through that. If you sit back for a second and you realize that schools are treating our children, our scholars, our most vulnerable population like this over a piece of paper that is basically a recommendation that schools can disregard, it makes me angry. It makes me very, very angry. And I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I don't know how human beings act like this.
It's very confusing, and it's very troubling about what is going on in this matter. And I wanted, and thank you, Tracy, for sharing. And I'm glad that you're able, all of you, able to join me today on this matter that is so crucial, actually, for the White House and a lot of the media to know about, which I plan to share with. But I wanted to ask Cecilia a final question regarding a special message to other students. Cecilia, are you there?
Yeah.
Cecilia, what would your message, your final message to students, to other students be? What would you want other students to know?
I would really like other students to know that we need to fight for our future, because that's what this is affecting. It's affecting our future. And if we don't stand up and fight now, then we might not have a future that will include all of us. And it's the fight now that we really have to push and keep going and show that we have a voice and that we need to be able to choose what we feel is right for ourselves, you know?
Mm-hmm. And for other students I know that are going through this across the country, what your message to them is to keep fighting on this issue. Any final words for other students that are suffering?
Don't let it overpower you, because at the end of the day, the mask is, I'm not really even sure if it's made out of cloth, but it's just a piece of cloth, you know? It might not burn very easily, but, you know, it's something that we can beat if we can all fight enough to not let it beat us. You know, I don't know, there's just so much of my emotions and opinions on this matter that are just flowing right now, and it's difficult.
Well, I understand. And thank you for sharing, Cecilia, about this. And Yvette, thank you for sharing as well. And Tavia, and want to encourage a lot of other parents and students that are being greatly impacted by this. Now, once again, the high school name is Placer High School. Your high school where this is happening at in Auburn, California, and people can check that out. And people could actually voice an opinion to the school officials if they wanted to from watching this video as well. And Yvette, did you have a final comment, Yvette?
School district is Placer Union High School District.
Placer Union, okay.
That's the district, and then there's many different high schools in our district. So this is happening at all of our high schools within our district, not just at Placer High School, but Cecilia is being used as the poster for
standing up.
For standing up and taking a stand. And it's going to come down to, if the kids' parents want the masks off, it's going to come down to non-compliance. Everybody needs to stand up and take these masks off once and for all.
And that's what I would like to tell
Tavia,
is that, you know, support your kids. If I want to tell parents to support your kids, you know, if they go to school and they don't want to wear that mask, support them. They have every right to say no to an experimental product, and support them. Take this fight with them, because I wouldn't be taking this fight if she wasn't making the stand. Mm-hmm. And I have other kids that aren't making the same stand for her, and I can't make them take this fight. This is Cecilia, and we're helping her take this fight.
Dr. Harper, if we understand that in California, they have no plans to stop this. Aragon, yeah. The California Department of Health, has no plans to stop this. If you understand that, then you need to understand that the time is now. And if we all stop complying, it ends. It ends. Mm-hmm. That's what needs to happen. And it needs to happen now for Cecilia's sake. She's not the only one suffering. So it has to stop now.
Yes, it does. I can understand that if people are complacent about this, it gets much worse. So, Tracy, thank you for helping them in this matter. And Cecilia, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Tavia, Cecilia, and Yvette. Well, it's great to see you on a sunny day in the midst of all this emotional darkness that is going on there. Very troubling time. Cecilia, I'm thinking about the students that are struggling with expressing themselves. For the students that are really having trouble speaking up, what would your message to them about this? How they can get their message of their struggles through to a friend or something?
We are people and we have a choice. And if you choose to unmask, then no one should make you wear one. And if you wish to fight for that, then fight for it, because no one's going to fight for you if you don't make the stand yourself. Mm-hmm. And you can choose to unmask if you still feel afraid to. It's inhumane to make us do something that we as people do not want to. And every voice has a place, and speak up or forever hold your peace, because you might not get a chance.